Welcome, Chosen One.
Pucker up, Ace-holes. It's Balance Council time. Councilman Ace takes the stand. Welcome to the first official Balance Council meeting here on the Ace of Plays channel. It's the fourth Balance Council, and we are less than 48 hours away from the votes being locked in and the changes being made. If you're unfamiliar with how the Balance Council works, it's on screen right now. Basically, anyone who is at least Prestige 1, which means you've reached level 60 once, and you've either won 50 ranked games in the current season, or you've reached Pro rank in the current season, you can vote for power increase, power decrease, provisions increase, and provisions decrease. 4 categories, and you have 3 slots in each category. Your sequencing matters because the top card will get 3 votes, the second card will get 2 votes, and the third card will get 1 vote from you. The votes are tallied up, and between 3 and 10 changes per bracket, so between 12 and 40 changes can happen depending on how many people are actively voting. And to even be considered, a card does need 50 votes. So it is a good idea to get together as a community and discuss these Balance Councils to, vote for something together and actually get it through. Now, for the past 3 Balance Councils, there's been a very specific part of the community. Like, I'm not going to go into GWENT politics. Because, I don't care. But there has been a very specific parts of the community that have been, able to weigh in a little bit more. And pretty much dominating the Balance Council. Now, are we going to be able to make a difference? Probably not at first. But hopefully, after some time, maybe. But I figured I'd give it a go. We'll start somewhere. So I'll be sharing my final votes for this month's Balance Council. And I am not here to just, brainwash you into voting for the things that I want. But if you do agree with my changes, and you don't have other changes that you would rather vote for yourself, I would really appreciate it if you just, joined in on my votes to see if they can maybe actually happen. But again, if you have things you would rather vote for, then by all means, you do you. But again, if you're just unsure, or you don't really care, or you're just not invested enough, then maybe consider just voting for these cards. I'll be giving explanations for each of them, and you'll notice that I am more passionate about certain cards than I am about others. But let's just get into it. We'll start with the top buff, the top power increase, Morkvarg. Now, I want to talk about this in tandem with the power decrease to Coral and the provisions increase of Turstak Skirmisher. In these Balance Councils, there's been a lot of, strange changes being made, and then next month, some of the slots for balancing are just being used to revert those changes. This is a bad trend. We're wasting our time. But these 2 buffs should not have happened. There were a lot of buffs last month that shouldn't have happened, and we have to counteract them. Coral should not be 7 power. Coral gets solid value up front, can generate more value. If you can't kill her with 6 damage removal, which is a term you will hear a lot in this video, 6 damage removal should be able to kill her. If you can't even kill Coral with it, then it just loses all value. A Coral is not a card that needs to be sturdy. She was fine at 6. She was being played at 6. Should the discard package overall get a buff? Maybe, but I don't think Coral is the one. I also don't think Turstak Skirmisher is the one. Because at 4 provisions, if you don't hit your discards, you can just mulligan these, no risk. But at 5 provisions, you've actually put points into them. When you pay 5 provisions for a card, you have invested in it. It's not just mulligan fodder. It's not just a tech card you mulligan if you don't need it. It's a card that you have to get value from, or you're losing value from your provisions. And I think Skirmisher should have that risk involved with it. It's not a huge risk, but it's somewhat of a risk. And personally, I think Skirmisher should be 3 power, 5 provisions, and then Burn a Brand should be 8 power to compensate. Because I think Burn a Brand is way more interesting. And if she was good enough to be played without Skirmishers, like just for the graveyard build up, or just for the thinning, that would be interesting. Skirmisher being such a necessary card for Burner to even be good, and for the discard package to function, I'm not super into that. But given that that's the state of the game right now, Skirmisher should cost 5. In my opinion. And I know a lot of people agree. These are changes I see a lot of people vote for, so if you don't want to waste your votes on these, like, they're probably going to go through anyway. But I didn't really have anything better. Like, I'm going to vote for the things that I feel most strongly about, regardless of whether or not they're probably happening regardless. So, Skirmisher, provision increase. Now, that said, I don't want to completely revert the discard package to its previous form. I don't mind it getting a slight buff. I don't like that they took the 2 least interesting cards and buffed them, instead of taking the 2 more interesting cards, like Burna, and especially Morkvarg. Morkvarg to 6 power would be huge. Slight buff to Lippy. Now, some people hate Lippy, some love him. But I don't think anyone is going to be crying themselves to sleep if he gets a 1-point buff through Morkvarg. Morkvarg at 6 power would also buff the Darren Morkvarg combo. Just a solid, mid-rangey play, thinning your deck. It would make him, more powerful compared to Skirmisher. Like, Morkvarg is just a glorified Skirmisher a lot of the time. Just 1 more power for now 3 more provisions, but, at least 2 more provisions. And we could buff his provisions, but I don't want to do that because I'd rather buff his power due to Blaze of Glory. Blaze of Glory is a very one-trick pony type of leader. You play with warriors. You have some 13 base power warriors in your deck, and you deal big damage. Often dealing a little bit too much damage, but you usually have King Brand to compensate a little bit. And, you have Ace to get the unit back out. So, like, it's a big point play. It's not bad, but that's the only thing this leader does. But I remember years ago, before King Brand was there, Jutta was 7 provisions, 12 power. Great Swords were only 10 power ever. Morkvarg was sometimes used as an alternative target, because you deal 5 damage, which is still enough to kill quite a few things, at least back in the day. Like, 5 damage killed most bronze engines, some even gold engines. And then you also get the 5-point body. Just a solid 10-point swing with enough removal value to matter. And you're not stuck sitting there just waiting for the opponent to play a big enough unit like you do now. Like, it was, more of a actually, interactive leader. Now, 5 damage is not as much anymore. 10-point leader, not as good anymore. But 12-point leader, 6 damage. See? 6 damage removal. I told you I'd mention that again, and I will do it again. 6 damage removal. That is suddenly very valuable. That can kill a lot of things. That can take out a lot of engines. A Messenger of the Sea that just got 2 ticks of rain, dead. Thirsty Dames often start off at 6, dead. What else? Witch Apprentice that got an instant buff, dead. A lot of, 5-point engines, they're dead. You get 11 points. It's pretty good. And I think just this 1 power buff to Morkvarg could potentially create a whole new way to play Blaze of Glory. And I think that is more valuable than Coral not dying to 6 damage, or Skirmishers being risk-free. Like, this is weird. Morkvarg at 6 power would be cool. It'd be dope as shit. Like, I would like, you have these mid-rangey Skellige decks, right? Just more control-y. And they're using Reckless Flurry because, like 2 years ago that was good. It's not good. I mean, it's not terrible. Like, if the opponent opens with a 4-point engine and that's it, you could kill it with half your leader. That's good. But most of the time, like, it's not enough. You have to combine it with other things, or they have so many units on board that you're not even hitting what you want. Maybe those decks could just go for a Blaze of Glory Morkvarg type of deal. And, you also have a Great Sword or Yuta for that big damage potential. And you have something else to put Morkvarg in the graveyard with. I just think it would add so much more flexibility to a leader that currently is very much a one-trick pony. So, this is the change I feel the strongest about. And I'd appreciate all the support I could get on this one. Because I would love to see if this change could make it an actual impact on Blaze of Glory. Moving on. Everything on this list, it was set in stone like over a week ago. Except for this one. I made this change last night. One-Eyed Betsy. Anyone who's seen my last 2 videos will know that I am now a huge fan of One-Eyed Betsy. I've been a fan ever since the rework because I love bandit decks. I love what they did with bandits. I want them to be good. And I think One-Eyed Betsy has earned a buff after her performance in Thick Mates Incorporated. One of my favorite decks I ever made, ever played. Sure, could we go for a provision buff? I guess, but I think she's fine at 8. Like, she feels accessible at 8. One thing I've noticed about bandit decks is that they're not really starving for provisions. They're rather starving for points. So, 8 for 8 Betsy would be beautiful. And if you watched either or both of my last two videos, and you enjoyed them, you liked the concept, and you have a free space on your Balance Council sheet, do consider voting for Betsy, because a vote for Betsy is a vote for fun and diversity. Yes, I'm very biased. I love this card, but I also think like it belongs to archetypes that could use buffs. And it's not like she's essential to be able to kill. Like, she's already 7 power 2 armor. Like, she's already ignoring damage-based removal. It's just 1 extra point. So, like, I don't think it's problematic at all. I think it could be healthy change. Moving on to my boy Aris. Classic build-around card for Skellige. I love build-around cards. But Aris never really found his place, despite being reworked. Given this deploy ability, which is really good. That was a massive buff to him. But I still think he needs 1 more buff, at least. I considered a provision buff, But I want to be very careful with that, because if he goes to 10... If he goes to 10 provisions, then Fukushi can res him. And, you know, as much as I would love to be able to play Artist twice, I don't know if that would be healthy. So I'd rather just put him to 6 power and see if that's enough. I feel like this is a card that, as long as it dies to 6 damage removal, I'm happy. I never want him to go to 7. So if we put him to 6 and he's still not good enough, then we gotta buff his provisions. If that makes him too good, then we nerf his power accordingly. But for right now, I just want to bump him to 6, see if that helps. I'm a big fan of this card, and I would love to see him be just a little bit more playable. I think one more power could make him that much more resilient. Like, you usually have to commit more to remove him. Like, not a lot more. Like, it's not a crazy change. Just a little bit more, which could maybe make him good enough. Alright, we're back to reverting, or, you know, counteracting the buffs from last time. Sewer Raiders were buffed to 4 provisions. Same with Casino Bouncers. Now, I see a lot of people wanting to nerf Casino Bouncers to 3 power. But I want to get him out of the Eventide Plunder pool. Right now, people can high roll Eventide Plunder, you know, to spawn a Casino Bouncer and pull the other 2 out of the deck. 2 thinning, a lot of points. I'd rather just get him out of that pool. And I've spoken with people on Reddit and on Discord, and, you know, we agree. At least most of the people I've talked to agree that he'd be better at 5 provisions and 5 power. Now, we have a lot of these, you know, 4 power thinning pairs. And most of them aren't seeing play. Could use a buff. I don't think we should just buff them all to 4 provisions. It's good thinning. It's good tempo at 4 power. And it shouldn't be free. Because 4 provisions is essentially free. And we don't want that. So get them back to 5. And then later we'll buff them to 5. And see if that works. As for Sewer Raiders, you know, I'm willing to experiment. They have a super easy condition. To just be 8 points. And thinning for 4. That's crazy. That can't exist. But with Sewer Raiders, you know, I'm willing to try 3 power. Like, they can still be 4 provisions. They can still be essentially free. But let it be just a 6-point play. You know, it's like an Elder Bear, but it thins your deck. And I feel like that's good. Like we like 7 for 4s, right? 7 for 4, that's good point slam. Well, 6 for 4 that thins your deck also seems pretty darn good in that case. So I want to try that. If that makes them bad, then, you know, we buff them back to 4 power, and then we gotta try the 5 for 5 approach. Or maybe they're fine at 4 for 4. I don't think they are. It just seems like too much. Regis Bloodlust. Now, I don't care a lot about this. I know a lot of people are voting to nerf him. Nerf his power. And I agree that he could probably handle another power nerf. My main reason for putting him here is that I, for one, struggled to choose cards for the power decrease. And also, I think 19 is such an ugly number. Like 20 for 10 was pretty. I think 18 for 10, like 18, we have 18 base power units. That looks kind of good. That looks nice. 19 is ugly. I don't want to do 19. Don't be 19. And that's why I want to nerf him to 18 power. But I also think, honestly, he could handle it. So that's why he's on there. I don't feel too strongly about this. You know, if you want to, you know, kiss my ass and you know, get me on your side, this is not the vote to do it. But if you agree, then of course, do it. Riptide. I need a sip of water. Lord Riptide. Before I started playing again, I was still looking at decks, reading Reddit, following the game. And I kept seeing Lord Riptide show up in every monster's deck. Most of which couldn't even trigger Might even once, never giving him more armor. And I was not a believer. I thought this... How is this good? Then I came back to the game and I grinded Fruits of Iskith mid-range for like rank 14 to 2 with Lord Riptide, and I am now 100% a believer. He is good. People tried nerfing him to 9 power. Luckily that was reverted. That doesn't make any sense. He should be able to trigger Might. Like, it's just a flavor thing. But he could be 9 provisions. He could easily be 9 provisions. That Fruits of Iskith deck, it became this prevalent because, Fruits got a provision buff. Ethereal got a power buff, which I think was very good. But I think maybe Ethereal could also use a provision nerf if that deck doesn't calm down a little bit. But I think Riptide is more of a priority. So, Riptide to 9 provisions. Let's make it happen. This is another change I see on almost every Balance Council sheet that I've seen posted. He's on there for a provision nerf. So, this is happening. This is almost guaranteed to happen. So, don't spend your votes on this unless you don't have any other ideas, or you just feel really strongly about it and it must happen. But it's whatever. But he should be nerfed. Back to buffs. The final few buffs. Queensguard. That's right. We gotta bring him back. If Kate winning Revenant can be 4 base power, 4 provisions, so can Queensguard. Queensguard have never been playable. Never. Not really. But they're awesome. It's an awesome deck. It's an awesome build-around deck. Build-around card for a build-around deck. We can't really buff their power, because while a lot of Queensguard triggers do deal 2 damage, and it would still work, it would make Ursine Ritual feel terrible. Like, Ursine Ritual is the clear leader for Queensguard, but it would feel terrible if you needed 2 charges to trigger Berserk on a Queensguard once. So we can't do that. So provision buff is the only way to go. I've seen several other people who want to buff Queensguard, so this is one that could actually happen. And, I love Queensguard. It was, one of the first cards that I really felt attached to in this game. And I still, from time to time, try to make them work, but they just feel so weak. And one more thing, I don't know how relevant this is, because there is such a thing as too many resurrection spells or specials. But it was pointed out to me that if Queensguard go to 4 provisions, they can be rezzed by War of Clans. Now, I don't know if that's relevant, but I think maybe. Because when I play Queensguard, I have, of course, 2 Freya's Blessings. But I also have Triss Telekinesis for a potential 3rd res. War of Clans, as a potential 3rd res, that is way cheaper and only 2 points less than Triss. That could make a difference. That's a huge provisional difference for basically the same card in this deck. So, War of Clans as a one-off, if Queensguard go to 4 provisions, that could be legit. That could make a huge difference. And, if you are in a control meta, And you need 4 reses. You cannot play 4 reses. So I think that could make a huge difference. And I want to try this. I want to see this happen. I know there are a lot of Queensguard fans watching my videos, so vote for Queensguard. Yennefer Illusionist, though. I featured this card on the first video I made after coming back this time around. The Magical Slave Army deck. I love Yennefer Illusionist. Triss Meteor Shower is seeing play. She's been seeing play since she was released. Or at least since Renfrey was released. Yennefer never really took off. I've played her in multiple decks. I have at least 4 decks that I play her in. Potentially more. But she's one of my favorite build-around cards because her condition is... It's vague enough that all 6 factions can use it. You just gotta spawn units. All 6 factions can spawn units. Yeah, to varying degrees, but they can all do it. But it's not like super general, so that it's just you throw it into any deck. You gotta make a specific deck. But anyone can do it. I think it's a really fun card. I think it's... I love it in my Spellweaver spam deck. I love it in Queensguard. So this would be a double buff to Queensguard. I love it in Revenants. And of course, I greatly appreciate it in the Magical Slave Army deck. So there are so many decks you can play with the Yennefer Illusionist, and buffing her power wouldn't do anything. I think we just gotta make her a little bit more accessible. I don't think she should ever be 10 provisions, but I want to try 11. So I think this card is potentially just 1 provision away from being played, and I want to test that theory. Last up, Fulmar. I could go on and on and on about how much I love Fulmar. And I have in the past. I've made a video about my favorite cards in the game. And he was on top. I love Fulmar. And it's not just because I was the one who got to reveal him during the Price of Power reveal campaign. But I do greatly appreciate it. But I love him. He feels like such a well-balanced card. His order effect is super unique. And awesome. It's a really cool effect. Like really high ceiling. But it does require setup. And you know, his design, his stats, his deploy, everything is perfect to me. He dies to 6 damage removal, which he absolutely should. So I will never vote to buff his power, because he should die to 6. Unless you, of course, invest in protection for him. He should die to 6. And he's got this great deploy effect that just ensures that even if you can kill him for 6 provisions, he still gets some additional value, because he costs 12. And he has, Rain synergy, Druid synergy, Alchemy synergy, so many synergies. He can fit into multiple decks, but none of them are using him. He's not being played in Rain decks. He's not being played in Alchemy Druid decks. He's too expensive, is the thing. 12 provision cards are better these days. And Fulmar, as much as I love him being 12, because I like the fact that, with his deploy, he is sort of a 12 for 12. That's just very satisfying to me. I think we gotta put him to 11, man. We gotta buff Fulmar. He is such an awesome design. One of my favorites in the game. And, I know, this is just a game. This is just a digital image of a man pouring water on a boy and some text on the screen. But I'm not kidding when I say that I would greatly appreciate if we could buff Fulmar to be playable. Because again, I mean, it's just a game, but this is a card that I got to reveal. Which just, you know, transcends the whole it's just a game thing. It was a great honor to reveal Fulmar. And to get to reveal, you know, a legendary card from my favorite faction. And it just happened to be one of the greatest designs in the game, in my opinion. That was a great honor. But he's not playable. But he's awesome. We gotta play him. We gotta buff him so we can play him. So please, 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 honestly, he's above Yennefer. Let's do it. Let's make Fulmar great again. Or for the first time, depending on how you look at it. Please. I'm begging you. But again, you know, you vote for what you want to vote for. Don't let me influence you too much. But please, Fulmar, Morkvarg, Betsy, Aris. Like, I had to throw in some course correction for the last Balance Council, but I feel like the changes that I've suggested here could really spice up the game, spice up archetypes. Let's make it happen. But if you are not voting for the same cards as me, which is of course perfectly fine, I am curious to hear what you are voting for. So leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you're voting for. You know, maybe not a full list, but I mean, if you want to share a full list, that's great. But at least, you know, the highlights, like the ones that really matter to you. I would love to hear them. All right. Voting closes in 1 day and 12 hours. I gotta get this video out quickly so that we can all be on the same page, if we want, for when the voting closes. Thank you for watching. Happy voting. And I hope things go well for us this time around. Until next time, have a good one.